In the United States Army, it takes them 12 months to make an effective recruiter, and it took us 90 days to make an effective recruiter, which means they make their quota, they make their monthly quota. We were able to do it in 90 days. But then there was this happy accident that came at the end. We took 100% of the soldiers who were on the suicide watch list, we took them off the suicide watch list. And I will tell you, I don't think I really asked the next question for probably a week. Like us brainstorming, why do we think that happened? The reason it did that, which I kind of learned more about it, is that we shifted the identity. And so what happened is, hi, welcome to Jason Forrest Show. I am with my wife, Mary Forrest, and today we're talking about the 3 ways that we doubled the conversion rate of the United States Army recruiters. See, they brought us in. They brought us in because they were failing their mission. They have unlimited taxpayer money. They're trained by Fort Knox, and they were failing to achieve their mission. And so they brought us in, and we did 3 different things in order to double their conversion rate. Every single one of the soldiers that we trained brought in 7 times more soldiers than the ones that we didn't train. We were able to make an effective recruiter in 90 days, where it normally takes the United States government and Fort Knox 12 months to make an effective recruiter to make their mission. But the coolest thing is that we were able to remove every single one of them on the suicide watch list, which was a total happy accident for us. And so in this episode, we're going to share with you the 3 ways we did that and how that's going to apply to you in your personal life to help you increase your conversion rate and give yourself more freedom and prosperity. And so let's go. You ready?
You know I am.
Here we go.
I actually used that on a call today.
You did?
Yeah, I talked about how you're eating fermented things because Russell said so. Not because I've been telling you for years. I was using it on why to that a lot of the, like one of the goals that I have as the coach for the coach on the team was to say the same things that they're saying. And I was like, because people need to hear it from multiple sources. Even my husband. I said, I don't know if you are big fermented. She was like, oh yeah, you got to have fermented foods. It's for your gut health. Like,
who said that to you?
She's like, I eat kimchi. This is the new VP at Epcon.
Oh, that's cool.
She said, you got to eat your kimchi, your sauerkraut. I was like, amen, sister. You are preaching right now to the choir. And so we talked about that. And I said, it's been in my kitchen. I'm trying to serve it to my husband every week. He has to go to a conference in Boise and hear from Russell.
That I paid $50,000 for.
Yeah. Then he came home to let me know that he had this great new advice that we need to be eating fermented foods. And I was like, so that's what I'll be doing for you on your calls. You're going to say things, and then I'm going to say it, and they're going to think it's genius and want to know why you never shared that information with them.
That's the funniest thing. And the reason for that is because Joel Barker, from the creator of the concept of paradigms, when I was...
Paradigm is wrong.
Yeah. So, gosh, I don't know. I had been in my early 20s, if not late, like 19s-ish, something like that. So my mom would always teach this concept called paradigms, and paradigms is from a guy named Joel Barker. And it was like back in those days, the training that would go on was like a DVD. It was like a corporate DVD. And so my mom in her college classes would teach the power of paradigms. And I was like so moved by it that when I was a corporate trainer, I would then introduce this concept, and I would like have this DVD, and I would go around, and part of my workshops is that I would play this DVD it was like a 25-minute video on the power of paradigms. Like, it's fascinating. And it was like 7 steps or something to like change a paradigm or what paradigms are all about. And then of course I would apply that to sales and to sales leadership. Like, that was back when I was like 25. That's what I would teach. Like, it was life-changing. But the idea of paradigms, and one reason why I bring this up is because the paradigms, it's impossible for a paradigm to change from the inside. That's one of the key points of this concept, is that's, and so like.
So you're saying you and I are so one that you can't learn about fermented foods from me?
Correct. That's correct.
That's what you're going, this is love? It was a love leash?
That's exactly what. It's 100% based upon that.
That was a long story to tell me.
Well,
that was great.
But I think it's applicable, but it's also applicable to everyone, right? But back then, like that in that DVD, it was so fun. I mean, I really should find this. I'm sure I have it somewhere. I think I took off turned the DVD into a MP4 or whatever, but the examples they gave were like the switch was like the Swiss watch to like the digital, like the Casio watch. Like, this is how old this thing is, right? Because it's 20 something years ago, of like the paradigm shifts back then, and so it was talking about how like the Swiss could have created the digital watch, but paradigms can't shift from the inside. And then it had an example of like the MP3 player. This is before like the Apple iPod, and it was like just the same, like the Walkman could have easily created the MP3 player, or should have, because they were so close to it, but it was impossible for them to create the MP3 player because they were so used to the Walkman, like Sony was used to the Walkman and the cassette player. Like it's impossible. Like it's so hard to change a paradigm from the outside, is that you have to disassociate. He said, if you want to try to change paradigm, you have to disassociate. You have to like get outside of the bubble that you're in and look at it from an outside perspective and try to innovate. So innovation really is the combination of like two or three things that are 100% like have nothing in common, and then it's the convergence of those things is how you innovate.
It's really interesting. Well, and it reminds me too, remember when we took the team through Chip Bell's training? And
one of the best customer service trainers of all time.
I love him. He is the best. And I remember though, one of the exercises that we did, and he had all these case studies of doing this exercise with different companies, but you had to the goal was to step outside of your company and then go through the process as a customer and experience it from that perspective to everything lights up for you that needs to be changed in those moments. But he had all of those of different retail stores that he was working with, and people walking in and all of a sudden the things that you would see that you didn't. But I think we sometimes do that. Like think about, we have I have a party here tomorrow, right? So I have a party here at the house, a little graduation party for the kids. And I think about that from entertaining, like as a mom, right? I start walking through the house, seeing your house, not the way that I walk through it, but the way like a guest is going to walk through it, and all that stuff, the I don't know, the messes and the piles of things that you just like overlook in your normal life, all of a sudden like glow and flash at you because you're about to have people in your house, because you step into a different identity with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're a different identity, a different point of view, different perspective, and that's where the brilliance comes from. I mean, even this past week, again, I was at the Russell Brunson Inner Circle kind of coaching conference, and I mean, one of the big things they kept talking about is like so often we're so tied to our product, and we think the product is what really matters to a person, and it's like it's not that. It's the dream outcome of what the product is providing for them, or it's the problem that they're trying to get away from is what we're really selling. And we spend so much time trying to convince them of our like amazing product that we have, that instead we got to spend way more time communicating the dream outcome that they're desiring and the problem they're trying to solve. But most of us, a lot of times, we're so close to it, we don't even really know what we're solving. We don't even really know. Like we don't even know, like think about how often, like in our programs, and again, Warrior Selling's ranked number 1 in the world. Leadership Sales Mastery is now ranked number 1 in the world. It's changed like a ton of lives. It's improved. It's created so much wealth in our clients and our individual salespeople. But think about how often a salesperson or a sales leader will stop us and say, like, Mary, you have 100% changed my life. And they'll say, Jason, you have 100% changed my life. But you know what I don't do? Is I don't ask the next question, and that is, tell me how. And that's what I just learned. I'm just like, oh, thank you so much. That means so much to me. And the marketing secret there is how exactly did I change your life? And they said, if you could start asking that next question of like, how, it's so stupid, isn't it?
So stupid. It makes me so mad that you had to pay that amount of money.
Only 50 grand.
And fly away for a week.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah. But she said, just ask that next question. Like, how exactly did I change your life? And they're like, oh, let me tell you, like I used to have so much stress about like how am I get my bills paid, and I was like causing all this like marital problems, and my husband and I were getting fights constantly because I like was telling him to like cut coupons, and I don't do it anymore. Like I don't stress anymore. Now we don't like cut coupons. Now we don't have to worry about money anymore. Now we go on vacations. Now we never fight anymore. Like it saved our marriage. Oh, so you're telling me that like me teaching you a 12-step selling framework and removing your fear on becoming the best version of you and becoming the greatest salesperson has caused you to like be a better mother and a better wife, and you don't have any fights with your husband anymore and save your marriage. Oh, that's crazy. Like that's like, but we don't ask that next question. We don't ask like, tell me exactly how your life has improved.
Do you think part of it, though, of the resistance or why people don't ask the next obvious question is a little bit of, I don't want to say like incredulousness, but a little bit of discomfort.
Sorry, what word did you just use?
I know,
I'm
sorry.
totally went to public school, so I have no idea what you just said.
It meant that it was hard for you to believe it.
Okay.
That you felt, or other people or myself, obviously, I haven't asked the question either, is a little bit of maybe discomfort and that level of praise? Or where do you think it comes from? Because it's obvious, right? And you write frameworks and we write discovery questions and we teach this stuff, but then we have to go teach, right? We have to get outside of it and go learn ourselves. I know. So where do you think that hesitation comes from? Because to me, it's not an intellect thing. Like, obviously I know to capitalize on a moment or, maximize agreement. But here we're not doing it. And do you think it's because something in you doesn't feel comfortable with praise like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there definitely is some soul searching for that for me when it comes to. I think part of it could be part of that. It could be part of it, like maybe I'm afraid of what the answer is. Like maybe there might be part of that.
Oh, that's good.
There's also just the surface level version of me that's like, yeah, of course I've improved your life. I'm helping you sell more.
Oh, okay. That's not thinking about it on the deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. So only thinking about it or accepting it only at the surface level, not on a deeper level. The other thing you said is
just that I'm afraid of the answer.
Okay. So like if they said, "Oh, man, Jason, your course has been amazing because the intro music is like life-changing." Like something that has nothing to do with your content or the thing. Like what is that? What answer are you afraid of?
I mean, I think I just might be afraid sometimes of, that's a good point. So afraid of something that maybe they're saying something to me that like I didn't really intend to, I didn't intend to that to happen. But then also maybe, I'm afraid of so for example, so when we spent 90 days with the Army and I was standing there in like complete honor and reverence when, the Lieutenant Colonel, Harold was sharing with us the success that we were bringing the Army, and had this beautiful governmental white paper that was talking about how we doubled the conversion rate within 90 days in the same exact market. Those who weren't in it had all this praise that our training was more effective than the training they had at Fort Knox, and which is insane since they have an unlimited budget, and our training was more effective and got them to what's called an effective trainer in 90 days, where it normally takes the United States Army 12 months to make an effective trainer. So it takes them 12 months to make an effective trainer in the United States Army. Recruiter, sorry. In the United States Army, it takes them 12 months to make an effective recruiter in the United States Army, and it took us 90 days to make an effective recruiter, which means they make their quota. They make their monthly quota. We were able to do it in 90 days. 100% of them were able to do it. But then there was this happy accident that came at the end, and they said, and one more thing that we were able to do is we took 100% of the soldiers who were on the suicide watch list. We took them off the suicide watch list. And that was like crazy for me. I mean, that was a very emotional, I was like, what just happened? Like, it was a very emotional like experience to get that kind of feedback. And I will tell you, I don't think I really asked the next question for probably a week. And that is like, let's talk, Lieutenant Colonel Harold, can we have a conversation about like us brainstorming, why do we think that happened? Mm-hmm. Like, what was the actual cause of that? And I never asked, of course, the question of like, what kind of impact did that make on the Army, and what kind of impact did that make on their lives? Of course, I didn't ask that question because that's a very heavy question to ask. But obviously it dramatically changed their lives. Right? It changed their life and the life of the Army. It changed the life of their peers. It changed the life of their husbands and wives, their kids. I mean, it changed everyone by doing that. So it was a very impactful thing. It gave them purpose again and pride and significance. And the reason it did that, which I kind of learned more about it, is that we shifted the identity. And so what happened is that, and this is a really, really interesting thing that we need to explore more, is that an Army soldier starts off as a soldier. So they're like, hey, I'm here to be a soldier. Like, that's my identity. All of a sudden, they're forced, basically, into becoming a recruiter. And the recruiter identity is really a salesperson identity. And so they're like, you know what? I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be a salesperson. I signed up to be a soldier. And so there was a huge cognitive dissonance, a huge disalignment with the behaviors that we were asking, or the behaviors that the Army was asking them to do, in the sense of go sell and promote and close people on the Army, to what they had signed up for. So it was just such a misalignment of their identity. Probably similar to, I haven't thought about it this way, probably similar to the suicide rate is so high with gender change. Isn't that correct?
I don't know the exact stats, but I do know it does not solve it. Definitely, I think.
Right,
it stays the same or gets worse. Yeah.
Right, but I believe we can look in the research. That research is very clear that the suicide rate is higher in people when they do the gender change, and again, the reason is because the identity problem, right? Is that like they shift some behaviors, so to speak. They shift some parts of it, but they're not shifting their identity, and so the identity is not matching kind of their behavior. So there's this huge like weird dissonance inside of them, and that's what causes all of that anxiety and anguish and problems, and again, so people then search for freedom, and they can't find freedom except for suicide. So that's the light version of how to get there. But so anyway, so I share that story only because it's so interesting to me how so often when you are helping someone accomplish something through your product or service, like you don't really understand sometimes, like, what is it really doing for them? Like, what's the true problem that they're trying to have solved? And if they were to solve that problem, like, what would it mean to them? And like, that's what we have to always figure out.
I think it's interesting. And I there's a couple of things that come up for me as you're sharing all of this. And one on the identity is, I mean, looking back at my early life and when I thought as a salesperson, I had a bit of my identity that thought I'm hindering people. Like, I'm annoying to people. I'm bothering. I'm an interrupter. All of those things in the identity. I wasn't very successful, obviously. When it changed to I'm a blessing, oh my gosh, I'm so helpful to people. You know, everything went into alignment with that as well, and shifted. So I think it's once we put the archetype on, and then what do we think? What are the values? What is that person? You know, a person who is a salesperson, what do they think? What do they believe? How do they dress? How do they speak? And we will match up in alignment with that. The paradox to me that was so cool during working with the Army or reflecting on our time with the Army, I should say that, you would think that if you put a process or a training in place that had such high accountability that it was requiring people to improve, and I guess if they were doing 12 months to 3 months, how many, 4 times faster? You have to get up to speed 4 times faster than the average. And then they were, I think, outselling 6 to 1. You have to do that much more. You would assume that the pressure and the stress of that would cause anxiety and stress to go up, but anxiety and stress went down. So it was interesting too that the accountability and the process, and here's exactly what to say, as some people would say, micromanaging, made stress go down. Instead of, I really believe, like before, it's macro managing that makes salespeople stress go up. I mean, think about all the, just tell me what to say. I want to follow up. I want to do a follow-up call. I want to go cold walk into a business. I want to do I have no idea. Tell me what to say. Tell me what to say. Right. And if we can micromanage, I'm using that word purposefully because I'm going to make it cool again. I'm going to bring sexy back to micromanaging.
I love it.
That when we tell people exactly what to do and how to do it, what to say, the tonality, the stress goes down. They feel more confident. And in this one, I mean, the stress is a big deal. It's not just normal stress and normal anxiety. This was a much larger scale. I think for us too, that the part at that point that made it hard to ask questions and made it just such sobering. One, it's just a concept. I think sometimes we joke in sales is like, well, it's not life or death. We're selling a house. We're selling a car. It's not life or death. And at this point, boom, we were slapped with the face that it was life or death. And we didn't know that. And I think then just the amount of respect and the amount of appreciation and care and love that we had for those soldiers. And then to think, oh my gosh, we were walking into a room with people that were in some of the people in that room were in such mental and emotional turmoil, and we had no idea. We had no idea. But I think what a great thing, because leaders and salespeople, we should all walk into rooms knowing that that's a possibility happening in the room. And how would we speak more truth? How would we speak with more love, be better servants, leaders, and protectors if we were acting as if somebody in this room might be in real emotional turmoil, in a real difficult state? You know, would we treat our job with more reverence? And I think that's the thing too. We had a lot of reverence for what we were doing, but I think too, I know for myself is immediately analyzing, like, was I good enough? Like, did I have enough reverence? Did I show enough care? Because it wasn't front of mind. But it's definitely since that moment, whenever I go into a classroom, Zoom or in person, I think about that. Like, I don't know what the day has been like. And I don't know what their career has been like. I don't know what their life has been like. I don't know what their morning has been like. I don't know. And so my number one job is I have to teach them something, but I have to do it in a way that I can be a mirror reflecting who they really are, and maybe not exactly what the world has told them they are today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, yeah, it makes me think of like how it makes me think of what we did. Like so when we actually broke it down, there were 3 things that we were able to do to have this success, right? So to make them effective in 90 days versus 12 months, to make them 6, in some cases 7 times, convert more, seven times more in 90 days than people that were not in the situation, and then remove the suicide watch list, which was phenomenal. And there's kind of 3 things that we did. So number 1, we changed the identity. Number 2 is that we changed their message. And then number 3 is that we changed who they focused on. So those were the 3 things that we did. And it's so interesting because, to your point, I love that. I never heard you say that concept, the whole idea of macro managing versus micro managing. That macro managing is like, I was kind of like, hey, I've hired great people, leave them alone. Like, go sell something. Right? We say it at the same time. So that's great. So let's break that down. So the first thing we did was we had to shift their identity, which I think we've talked about. But again, the clarity there is they came in as a soldier. They didn't see themselves as a salesperson. And so any sort of skill that we gave them, anything that we told them like what to do or how to do or why to do it, it didn't really work. It didn't have a container for it to fit in, right? So if they identify as a soldier and we're telling them, hey, you need to master this machine gun, well, it obviously fits within that container of that identity. So it's like, yeah, of course I need to learn how to master my machine gun, or survival skills. Of course I need to learn how to do that, because again, it's in the identity or the container of being a soldier. And so all of a sudden now they're learning how to be a salesperson / recruiter. And it's like, it doesn't fit the identity. So there's a lot of kind of cognitive dissonance there. And therefore that creates that anxiety that you're referring to, even at very low expectations and low numbers. The second thing that we were able to do is we changed their message. Do you remember this?
Yes, absolutely.
That was a big one, because the number one problem that they were taught by Fort Knox is within the first 5 minutes or so, tell them your Army story. So tell them why you joined the Army, and tell them what's so great about the Army. But do you remember? I don't remember the stat or not. The stat was so fascinating to me. Do you remember what percentage of prospects, of prospective soldiers, or they call them future soldiers or prospective soldiers, what percentage have actually decided to join the military? Not less what branch to go in. But
yeah, I don't remember, so I'm gonna guess 20%.
5%.
Oh my gosh, worse than I thought.
5%.
5%.
So only 5% of the people they're even speaking to, of the kids they're speaking to in high schools and the junior college and so forth, only 5% of those have actually decided to be in an armed force. So to be in the Army, the Marines, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, the Navy, Space Force, right? All these different options. So only 5%. So that means 95% of the people that they were communicating with could care less about the Army story or why you should join the Army. Like, it was a complete mismatch.
Well, you know what? I should have had the 5% number. I'm mad at myself right now because this is not research back data, but this is Mary and Jason asking salespeople back data. Is every time we go ask how many of the people, when you're categorizing, like, have definitely decided like that their current home is not an option for them. Like, they are definitely moving 100%. There's no way they're staying in their current home. It's like 5% that is usually the average number that comes out from the group. And it kind of ebbs and flows at different seasons, but it's usually about 5% that are like, my current home is not an option.
Yeah. It's crazy, right?
Same thing.
And so it'd be interesting to see, like, in today's, in today's world, what the number would be if that's changed because of the administration. I don't know. I'm sure maybe it has. I don't know. But so that was a big shift, and that's a big shift that people need to pay attention to. Is that if your sales process, if your messaging is not in alignment with where the customer is in the buying journey, then it could be a great message. It's just your timing is horrible. Like, it's just not the right time.
Yeah. And I think that's confusing to a lot of people because they work on a sales message. They have a beautiful sales message. It's been signed off by somebody, and then they go deliver it and they get ghosted and they don't know why. And it's because that person wasn't ready for your message. So you taught them to go in and stop talking about the Army. Same as we would say, stop telling people your builder story. They don't care at the beginning. Instead, we've got to gauge have you decided that the military is right for you? And that was the message. And so you have to sell them on serving our country and being in the military before we can sell them on the Army. Otherwise, it's too far of a leap. The same as you can't sell them to buy your home in your community if they're still considering living in their current home. Or that you can't sell them on living in your community in North Carolina if Florida's still an option. You have to sell the state of North Carolina, then sell your community, then sell the specific home. So it has to go in that order. Otherwise, you're telling these like beautiful messages and it's just the wah, 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 wah. They're not listening to you. Because it doesn't matter.
100%. So you're exactly right. So the first thing that we did was we changed their process, changed their messaging where when it was time to give the selling message they gave first was, here's why you should serve this country, and here's really why you should choose a life of service. And so we actually made it we made it very high chunk. So it could have been like the Peace Corps. It could have been like the armed forces. So it was like very high chunk at first of just like, why do you want to serve?
How many people are like, I don't know. I'm trying to decide, like, Marine, Peace Corps, like right there together, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, that's the cool point, right? So, because the first message was great. So you do agree. So this was the close was, so great. So you do believe that you don't want to go to college. You want to take a break from that. Not saying you can't go to college in the future, but you don't want to go to college now. You don't want to go work for Amazon and do that. And you do believe you're built for something more. You're built for a higher purpose, and you're built to serve like a bigger calling than what you've been able to do in the last 18 years. Is that correct? I'm like, yeah, that's correct. And perfect. And so now that you've agreed that you're not going to college for now, and you're not going to go work at Amazon, and you do agree that you're built for something more in a life of service. Now let's decide which branch you would like to serve. So now let's talk about the Army versus the Marines versus the Navy versus other branches, right? Let's talk about what that is. And but once they did that, now it's game over for everyone. Now it's a much more downstream type experience, because now the customer is like open-minded to it. It's like, yeah, I definitely want a life of service. So now let's see if the Army is the right vehicle for you to to live out that life of service that you desire.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they had, it's demoralizing to work so hard on a pitch and people just not paying attention to you. And, these soldiers a lot of times were in schools, and high school kids, I know from personal experience in our home, they do not care if you're talking to them. They will straight up get on their phone and start texting or watching a YouTube video right in front of your face. They're not even pretending to listen. Mm-hmm. So that's the level that these soldiers were dealing with. And now all of a sudden, people were hanging on their every word and wanted to know what they had to say and cared about it and were asking questions. And that back and forth just fuels you emotionally, just in yourself for your own personal life, but then also to keep going and to be able to have the energy to recruit more. And I think a lot of times if salespeople will look at how they feel at the end of the day, and if they're depleted, if they are worn out, if they don't have energy to be present with friends and family, it might not be that they're not meant for sales. It might be that they are giving these beautiful messages at the wrong time. And so they're not getting any of that energy back from the customer. So they are depleted at the end of the day. And so just switching up the timing or adding one more message in might be the difference in being able to have a fun conversation with your family at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Because you know what the rules of the game are, and you know that, okay, now we're on the same page in the sense of where you are in the buyer's journey. And so now let's just see if we can make progress around that. Like the other version is, it's like they're throwing darts at a dartboard, blindfolded, turned around 1,000 times, hoping that like their message is sticking, but they're not aiming at the right target. So it's not going to work for them. And so again, the first thing we did was we changed the identity, which was again, so huge, because I remember when we first started working with the Army, so many of the soldiers came up and said, Mr. Forrest, Mrs. Forrest, let me tell you right now that being a recruiter is the hardest job in the military. And I was so shocked by that. Like, I was like, wow, that's so crazy. I did not expect to hear that. Again, a paradigm shift from the outside. So I didn't know that, Mm-hmm. And so when I finally started understanding it, it was because of how much stress they were under and how they didn't have the right skill set to pull it off. And so I said, I will know when I've accomplished my mission here with you guys, is that when each of you have said, this is not the hardest job in the military, but this is the most important job in the military. And I said, the reason why I'm saying that is because the enemy says that. I said, I guarantee you have Al-Qaeda and you have the Taliban. They're all saying that their recruiters are the most important job because they got to build their force. And right now, you guys think it's the hardest. They think it's the most important. I said, who do you think is recruiting more people? I mean, whatever we think is hard, we procrastinate. Whatever we think is difficult, we don't do. But we think it's fun, we think it's easy, we think it's the most important, then of course we're going to do it because it's liberating. And so I want to give you guys freedom. I want to liberate you from all of this fear and worry that you think it's so hard. And instead, I want to empower you and liberate you to realize that it's the most important job you could ever choose. This is a calling for you. And it was so cool because over 90 days, one by one, they would say, Mr. Forrest, Mrs. Forrest, you're right. This is the most important job. I was wrong. It's the more important. I was like, tell me more. Like, why is it the most important job? They're like, because, I just convinced, the star quarterback to join the Army. And I know that person's going to make a future soldier. It's going to make a perfect soldier. It's going to help our country. It's going to fight for freedom. And like, it was cool. Like they realized that like they were the tip of the spear, like bringing people in to protect the Constitution and protect us. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and that was number 3, going after different people, because when you feel unimportant or you feel like you're intruding, it's hard to go, to talk to a lot of people. It's hard to go talk to parents. It's hard. You go after who feels easiest. And so they switched that up and it changed everything. And what's interesting, I was thinking about too, as you're sharing all of this and them coming up to us, I think one of the most impactful things for me was maybe, 9 months, 12 months after we had completed with the first round. And you were the keynote speaker at the birthday ball. And we went there, and so many of the soldiers that we had seen in day 1 of the very first class, coming in kind of head down, shoulders up, we're still this much later, we're just kind of bouncing around, coming up to meet us and go, oh, I'm still crushing it. You're going to see me get awards tonight. Just wait till you hear how many recruits I have. So it wasn't that it just, what's great about it is it didn't take us staying there with the same group every single day. Like they learned it, they implemented it, it changed them. And a year later we go see them and they're like, it's still working. We're still doing it. I've just broke records in my battalion. Just wait till you see me get on stage with these awards. And that was so fun and so cool to watch them and to celebrate all the awards that they were getting. And look, it's one thing on the results, but it's another thing to see them as different people. Mm-hmm. And to see the lightness that they had and the excitement and how proud they were. That's the real win.
That is the real win. Yeah, because we changed our identity. Identity is everything. And that third point of changing who they focused on, it was so interesting. I remember when we first started with them, I said, what's your, I always love asking this question, as you know, what's your number one problem that's preventing you from having a 100% conversion rate? And they were like, number one, sir, it's impossible, 100% conversion rate. I said, well, great. What's your problem though? What's keeping you from recruiting more? And they were like, well, the kids these days, they're just not healthy enough. They're overeating, too many Twinkies. They can't pass the physical test. They're not working out. And then number two is that the schools, they're letting us down. Like they're not teaching the kids the right things, and so they can't pass the ASVAB test. That's the standardized test they have to pass, right? And I said, okay, you could be right. I don't know if you could be right or not. You could be right. I said, but why don't you go after the kids that can pass? Why don't you go after the kids that are healthy enough? And they're like, who are those? I'm like the valedictorian, like the football players, like the wrestling team, like the baseball players, like the athletes. You go after them. And they're like, sir, those people don't join the army. I'm like, what do they do? They go to college. I go, but those are your soldiers. I was like, do you want like the lazy kid that eats all the Twinkies and can barely pass the test that you kind of push over the edge to be in the foxhole next to you, like when we're fighting the war? Or do you want the star quarterback, or do you want like the rush linebacker that's like ready to like kill them all? Like, do you want that person next to you in the foxhole? Well, sir, of course we want the rush linebacker, the defense of all state. We want that person next to us. I said, we'll go after that person. That's like the future soldier. That's the person we want defending this country. That person doesn't choose the army. I said, but that's because you haven't created the right message. Like, that's who we need to have. Like, that's,
or you haven't asked. You haven't asked them.
Yeah, let's go after them.
Yeah, we don't go into private schools.
It's crazy.
And then they started to. And it was wonderful because it wasn't just the recruiting that they were doing. One of the fears was, do the parents not want their children to join? And then when they started being taken out to lunch by the parents as a thank you for recruiting their son or daughter, that, one lunch can change everything.
Yeah, one lunch. And again, I mean, and people, when I didn't know a lot of things. My job is just to help people create messages, and your job is to accomplish their goals. And so I said, okay, well, what are your top objections that are preventing people to say yes? And they said, well, the number one objection is that we don't want to die. And the second objection is that we don't want to serve this government. And I was like, all right, well, I can fix that for you. They're like, how do you fix that, Jason? Mr. Forrest. They call me Mr. Forrest. And I said, well, easy. I said, first, let's look at the stats. Let's look at the evidence. I mean, I don't know the evidence. Let's just Google it right now. We didn't have ChatGPT then, but let's Google it. I guess we did. We didn't use it. And the evidence is really clear. Is that there's only a 3% like mortality rate in the military, and there's less than and there's only like, well, sorry. There's less than 3% of the jobs in the military that are combat related. There we go. I need to say that correctly, properly. There's 3% of jobs in the military that are in the army that are combat related. And so number one is, if you don't want to put yourself in risk, then don't choose a combat related job. But even if you do choose a combat related job, you have a greater chance of dying in a car wreck than you do in a combat related job. There you go. So that's what we came up with. Like, that was the message. And so then I just taught them the very simple agree, lead, resolution framework, which they're like, what's that, sir? And I was like, it's just very simple. Just agree with them. Do you agree that you don't want them to die? They're like, of course so. Like, do you agree that you don't want to die? Yes, of course. So that's your two agrees. Okay. So number one, it's, look, I 100% agree that I wouldn't want to die. And I 100% agree that I don't want you to die. With that said, there's a simple thing that you can do to remove the risk of that. And that's choose the 97% of the jobs, which is over 100 to choose from. They're not combat related. But even if you do choose a combat related job, that you have a lesser chance of dying in a combat related job than you do in an actual car when you leave this appointment to go drive home to your house. So with that said, what would you rather do? Or choose now, what would you rather do? So that was like number one. And they were like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing in the world. And then the second one was, I don't want to serve this government. And I just said, use the same framework. Like, just agree with them. Like, agree. I agree. I don't want you to go to war to serve any government. I want you to go to war to serve this country and to serve the Constitution and to serve the Declaration of Independence and to serve what we're fighting for, what we stand for. The government's going to change constantly. I mean, who's Republican, Democrat? It's going to change constantly. So you're not serving them. You're serving us. You're serving us as Americans. And are you okay with doing that? Oh yeah, I'm totally okay with doing that. Like, that was it. That's all we did.
That's fun. Change the messaging, handle the objections, give the script, micromanage it, because that's the way to win. And then the other is have them, I think for all people is help. If there's a demographic that is nerve-wracking for you, can you find somebody to practice on? Because I think one of the most fun days is somebody, and they didn't know we had children or anything like that. And somebody said, I am not going to the private schools because those rich private school moms, they do not want us talking to their kids about the Army. And I do not want to talk to rich private school moms. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm a rich private school mom. Come here and try this on me. Right. So right there at the moment, back when I was a private school mom, not a homeschool mom, we got to practice that. You're going to practice on me until you're comfortable with it. And then every time you walk to go speak to one of these moms, you're going to picture me and you're going to see my face there. And you're going to do it just the way that we're doing it. But it's interesting because I saw that we did that today on one of my calls. It was one of our public calls, and it was awesome because we were having great success with it was one manager of a cabinet company was saying all the success, all the sales that his team has gotten in the last couple of weeks. And we were talking about, where are your sales coming from? What are you doing? And he's like, gosh, we really need more remodeling business. Well, guess who's also on the call? Remodelers. So I was like, all right, right now, you, tell me, who's the cabinet company you use? What's the sales pitch? So anyway, they are writing triple binds. They're writing sales process for each other to try out. And so I'm like, okay, now you go again, Mr. Cabinet. Now I want you to try the pitch here on the production manager for a remodeler. Try it. And they're getting to practice with the exact type of person, but that is open to everybody. And I think as a society, and then even in sales, like, we want good sales processes. We want to be sold in a good way. People like to help. They like it when you ask for help. And so a great thing is, if there is a demographic that you're nervous about, who do you know that's that demographic? Who do you know that has that job? Who do you know? And call and say, hey, can I practice? Or what would you want to hear? And let's do that. But I think you did that on a call recently too. Didn't you have two people that were helping each other? Am I making this up in my head?
No, you're correct. And I don't remember. Yes, I do remember. I do. It might've been yes. I think it was a financial company that we work with that sells to, I believe, builder. No. It was a loan officer. That's what it was. It was a loan officer, and their job was to sell to the builder, sell to the new home salesperson on why they should use them as their preferred lender.
Got it.
We did the same thing.
Yeah. And yes. So, I mean, somebody. So sometimes we spend a lot of time on our own trying to figure it out, when, again, like the annoying question of, how did I help change your life? Like, just go to the person and say, hey, I want to give value to companies like yours that do what you do. What would you want to hear from somebody? What's important to you? And let them help you write that sales message or practice your delivery of it.
Yeah. So what the concept you're referring to is that threat desensitization. I can't ever say that word. Threat desensitization.
It's close enough.
Close enough. And so basically the idea is that in order to remove fear, we have to run towards the thing that we would normally avoid. And so in this case, you were having them role play and experience their fear, which was a private school mom, and they had this story in their head that a private school mom would nowhere near allow their kid to join the military or join the Army. And so you had them practice on you to kind of run towards the thing that they were afraid of the most. Isn't it so interesting, though, by the way, that like you have these like incredibly tough soldier warriors that will like literally give their life for this country, but yet they're afraid of you. They're afraid of talking to you.
I know.
The craziest thing. But there's actually a great book, one of my favorite books of all times, called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and he's considered to be the grandfather of self-image psychology, and he was a plastic surgeon back in the 50s and 60s. And his a famous kind of story that he would tell when he first figured out the power of your self-image and how you kind of see yourself is he would give a patient a mirror and he says, "I just fixed your nose," and he would have rhinoplasty on like a car accident victim or something. And the patient would look in the mirror and say, "I don't see anything different. You haven't fixed anything." And he was like, no. Like, I fixed your nose. Like, it looks great on my side. But they would look in the mirror and their mind played tricks on them. And their mind saw the old version of themselves, the disfigured version, not the new cosmetically improved version or the back to normal version. And so he realized that. And so in the book, called Psycho-Cybernetics, kind of a weird name there, but is that it's really the power of your mindset. And he has this really interesting story in there where he talks about that you're either a lion or a mouse. Do you remember this?
I remember it, but I don't remember the next part.
Okay, it's the coolest thing. He says, so each of us, all of us, we're a lion and a mouse. And so he gives the example that you could be a high-powered CEO and you're a lion in the boardroom, but then you go into the weight room doing weights and you're a mouse next to the bodybuilder. The bodybuilder is the lion in the weight room, but then goes and puts a suit on and tries to pitch inside the boardroom and acts as a mouse. So inside of us, we both have the lion and the mouse. And so, which is a cool, interesting kind of awareness, because awareness is the birthplace for change. Awareness is the birthplace for freedom. Because if the bodybuilder wanted to therefore be the lion in the boardroom, it has to realize that he's capable or she's capable of doing that, because she or he does have a lion in them as it relates to the self-image of the bodybuilder. So then it's to reverse engineer and say, okay, well, why is that? Like, what did I do to become a lion in the weight room? Okay, well, I studied. I read a bunch of books and studied on how to be a great bodybuilder. I modeled. I found other people that were great bodybuilders, and I surrounded myself with them. I mean, I think that's one of the most important hacks that any human being can ever do is just look at the people they surround themselves with. And if they like their life, it's probably because they're hanging around with people they like, and the people that are doing positive things. And if they don't like their life, the first thing they need to do is look at who they're surrounding themselves with, because if they're in crazy amounts of debt, they're probably hanging around people with crazy amounts of debt. If they're making wrong choices, same thing. If they're constantly having a victim mentality, same thing. They're hanging around other people that have that victim mentality. So Maxwell Maltz would say, so number one, again, is to reverse engineer. How do you become a lion in this area? And say, okay, so again, so it's I started studying, got resources, got research. I modeled, I put effort towards it. And after I got coaching, I did all these things, and then I grew into the lion. And so what he would actually say is that the mouse can actually become the lion. All the mouse has to do is realize in what area of their life are they already a lion, and that gives them permission to reverse engineer that and say, oh, well, you're capable of being a lion over here, and so just do that again in the area that you're currently a mouse, and you'll be a lion in this area. And it reminds me, first of all, any comments on this? It's crazy.
I have so many comments, but go for it.
But so I remember the second book that I wrote is called 40-Day Sales Dare, and one of the day off dares, I talked about this in a different way. It was like a different version of this. Mm-hmm. And I said, any sales skill that you feel like you're not good at, be careful that you don't have a leash and you say, I'm just not good at that because it's a talent thing. Instead, realize it's a skill thing. And if you actually look at the math of it, and math is everything, if you look at where you spend your time, that's the area you're the best at. And it's like, so if you look at, like you asked like kids, for example, it's like, they're like, I'm horrible at science, but I'm really great at video games. Okay, where do you spend the most time? I spend the most time in video games. It's like, so, all right, well, you spend as much time in science or in video game, or with your science, you do video games, you'll be better at science, don't you think? Well, I guess so. Like, it's just, and that's just how it works. I mean, like, even when you go to, like, I remember when I was younger, when Barnes and Noble was still around, like, Like I was a self-help junkie. And so I would always go to the self-help section. But people who were really into, let's say, like, I don't know, cooking or something, I'm just saying something, like they go to the cooking section. So like we kind of gravitate to the area that we're already good at. Like we go and find things that we're already good at, and we go and research that, and we become even better at those things. Most people don't find the area that they're not good at. Like I never went to the cooking section of Barnes & Noble because that's not what I wanted to spend my time on. But
or
if
the fermenting food section.
Correct. Yeah. So it's interesting though. So it's all about time, but it's all about just recognizing that it's 100% possible for you to be a lion in your life if you currently are a mouse.
Well, I think I like that concept a lot, and it makes me, start to evaluate where I am in different areas. But it also, do you remember a few years ago, ever since COVID in 2020, I can't keep track of what year things happened. So it's probably before then. So it's probably been more than a few years ago. I had that session at the Builder Show on networking. Do you remember that one? That one was, I had more, I think I had more people in that session and got more response from that one than any other. And it was so fascinating to me because I'm there teaching at a network, and they had on day one, which I figured they put on day one because everyone has 4 more days of networking to do, teaching how to network. And a lot of it was about overcoming different social phobias and feeling uncomfortable in groups. And what do you do when you go to like these parties at night, and how do you meet people, and what do you say? And we went through all of it. And it was fascinating to me because what I figured, this is my prediction of what was going to happen, is I was going to do this session. I didn't know if people were going to show up or not because it was a little bit outside of, it's things that I work with our partner clients on, but it's not something that I usually go out and speak publicly on. So it was my first time to do that. So I didn't really know what was going to happen with it. But my prediction was that I'd have a lot of introverts in the room. And the people that would come up to me afterwards would be people that this was their first Builder Show to go to, or this was their first time out at a big event, and they needed a little help to figure it out. I was totally wrong. Totally wrong. 100% of people that came up to me at events, and I gave them code words. I gave them things to say to me. Do you remember that? I'd say, come tell me this, and I will know.
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe, code words. And mistletoe, say mistletoe, and I will know to include you. I'll know you were in my session, and I've got your back. I will be your wing woman networking with you. You're in my circle now. And so 100% of the people that came up to me were business owners, the owner of the company. And it blew my mind because I thought in my projection, right, in my looking at people, that the business owners, like, why would they be scared anywhere? Why would these are the big dogs of the show, right? These are the big dogs walking in, that everybody would be, that they would be the most comfortable. They were the least comfortable. They were the mouse in the networking. And it was wonderful. I met so many people. We had a ton of fun. In fact, I might bring that back. I think I'm deciding right now to maybe bring that back.
Great.
And it was so, the amount to me of people coming back just saying, I had so much anxiety about every night at the show. I had so much worry and nervousness. And now knowing where you were going to be, knowing what to do, knowing that I had a friend that was going to help me out, that changed everything. This made this like doable for me. I could stay out longer. I actually made connections where usually I'm just, how do I get out of this as fast as possible? But it's the same thing. I mean, the lions walked in and became a mouse in these social situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So interesting, isn't it? It's interesting that just, again, people could be so powerful in one area and be so timid, I guess, in another area. But again, that's the example of, so many.
Well, and I think for so many salespeople, we need to recognize that we're getting emails from people and it has a big fancy title or a lot of letters after their name. And so you expect when they come in to shop with you as a prospect that they're going to be a lion. They might be very uncomfortable in that situation. They might be very uncomfortable, discussing large amounts of finance. They might be very uncomfortable in that space. And so again, not allowing ourselves, and they might not be, but not allowing ourselves to just decide as a salesperson, because you have this title or because you're this type of person, you're going to be that way with me. So how can we serve and support the person, whether they're showing up as a lion or a mouse or something in between?
That's great. Yeah, so for me, I'm trying to think of, I'm trying to think of, I mean, I probably have so many examples. I mean, I definitely think, I think I've grown a lot. I think I would say in some aspects of parenting, I'm probably a mouse, I would say.
Oh, I definitely had a mouse moment last week.
What was your mouse moment?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Hashtag mouse moment.
Oh, I had hashtag mouse moment. So, the girls go to co-op on Thursday, so they're at co-op. But last Thursday, Elizabeth had a ballet performance in the middle of the day. And so I had to go grab her from school, take her to a ballet performance, and then bring her back. By the time I brought her back, there was like an hour left of school. And in the classroom that she has, there's couches on the back walls, and it's homeschool. Like, parents are invited into all the classrooms anyway. So I thought, no big deal. Last hour, I'm going to sit in the classroom on the couches in the back, take notes, watch what's happening, help them prepare for their mock trial coming up. I'm feeling very comfortable in this. And another mom peeks into the room, and she looks at me and she's like, "Hey, Mary, can I borrow you for a minute?" I'm like, "No problem." Thinking, whatever you need, I've got you. So I get up, I go out. We're walking down the hall, and she said, "We're going into the fellowship hall. The co-op meets in a church." So the fellowship hall, huge hall. And she said, "We need a parent to stay with all the kids while the rest of the tutor parents, the ones that are like helping facilitate a class, they go take pictures." I become a mouse and start panicking. She is wanting to leave me with, I swear it was 5,000. It was probably like 50, but it felt like 5,000 children, little children. And I do not know how and she said it, and I go, "Oh, no, not my gift. You cannot leave me with all these children." And she said, No. You've had children. All of our children are teenagers now. I don't remember this. And she said, "You're a teacher." I go, "I teach adults. I teach adults all day, not, 5-year-olds." And she said, "Just answer any questions they have." And I am watching myself walk into this room, and I'm looking at children everywhere and panicking. My heart starts beating really hard. I start getting, so I'm like, "You cannot leave me. You cannot leave me in this room with this many kids." And she said, "It'll be fine." Now, let me go ahead and tell you, she walked out the room, and within 30 seconds, all the kids just max exodus, like, left the room. Now, another older kid said they were going to the playground, and that was fine. But I'm just in panic. And it's interesting. I walk into a stage, I walk into a group of adults, I walk into a boardroom, totally cool. I'm fine with it. You put me in a room with 50, 3 to 10-year-olds, and I just started to panic as a mouse.
As a mouse.
As I was a little mouse in this room. I found the oldest girl I could find in the room, who was about 10. And I said, "Look, you are actually in charge right now." And she starts laughing. And I was like, "You think I'm joking? I'm going to need you to take care of all of this and do what needs to be done." But you never know. You never know what those, and I would not, I don't know if probably if somebody put it in my face, I would have thought about it. But little children make me a mouse.
All right.
That's what we know.
So it sounds like we need to solve that for you. So
Oh
what are the 3 steps? Step number 1.
This is my desensitization.
Well, yeah, that's possible. So step number 1 is you need to read and research and find all the information that you need in order to be a lion when it comes to managing hundreds of little kids.
Yeah,
that's number 1. Number 2 is that you need to get coaching. Right, so you got to get some coaching, some mentors, so you can model other people that are successful. So there's obviously people that are successful at that. So you got to go figure out what in the world they're doing. You got to model them, and then number 3 is you have to go make friends with those people. You have to surround yourself with those influences, those lions of people who can handle hundreds of little kids.
Well, and I do know those lions. I just have not asked for their help. But it's true, because I think something is important, and something that I definitely want to do is to help teach these presentation and networking and some sales skills to kids. I think they need it. I think that's missing in our education and system. And I want to definitely serve our community and the kids of our clients in this way. And so in order to be able to be successful at that, I will need to gain these skills and become a lion when it comes to children.
That's it. And those are the 3 skills to make it happen.
Gonna happen.
Love it. Okay. All right. So we covered a lot today. We covered a lot. We covered the importance of shifting paradigm shift from the outside. It's Joel Barker. I'm not sure who the other guy was that you're talking about from Price is Right, but probably something similar. And talk about that, and just how many paradigms are constantly changing, but sometimes you just need an outsider to make that happen. We also talked about the United States Army and how the 3 steps, the 3 ways that we were able to, 3 secrets really, of how we were able to double their conversion rate, and then just how that transfers over to if you don't like the success in your life, you don't like what you're achieving, you don't like the results that you're having, you're probably playing small. You're probably a mouse in that area, and you need to first step is realize that you're not a mouse in all areas of your life. Like you're a lion in some areas, like you're a lion, whatever that area is. It could be just a certain subject. It could be an identity as far as you're a lion as a mom, but you're a mouse as an employee, or you're a lion as it relates to being a husband, but you're a mouse when it comes to being a parent or being a salesperson. And so just realize that there's a lion in you, so you are capable of it. You just have to let the mouse talk to the lion, and the mouse needs to have a conversation with the lion and realize, wait a minute, you're my lion, and you're inside of me. And how'd you become a lion? I became a lion because number 1, I decided to study like how to be the best lion I could possibly be. And what else did you do? Well, number 2 is that I got coaching. I found like other lions, and I modeled after them and like just did what they did. And number 3 is I surrounded myself with a bunch of lions and just like created a whole like tribe of lions that I could like be a part of, so they could like rise me up, like all ships rise together. That's what I did. You can do the same thing too. All right, thanks, Mr. Lion. That's it. That's what we did. We talked about a lot of stuff today. It was great.
I like your mouse lion act out there at the end.
It was great. All right. Until next time, if you guys like what the message was today, if you like this, if you believe this brought you joy and help and freedom in your life, then definitely like and subscribe, share with other people, put a comment that on something that you learned today. Also comment that like what's an area in your life that you're a lion and you're a mouse, and how you're going to turn that mouse into a lion, because a mouse can transform, which is kind of a cool thing. Until next time, this is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.